Welcome. Today we're going to continue to solve by square rooting, but in this case it's not already got x squared on one side by itself for you in all cases. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So the first step you should be taking is to isolate the variable that is squared. The second step is to square root both sides. Then you include the plus minus sign whenever you square root both sides to solve for a variable. Step 4 is to simplify the square root into simplest radical form. Yesterday we did both simplest radical form, that's what I was trying to say, and approximating. Today we're just simplest radical form. Okay? So, our first example is here. Now, if that were not x squared, but just x, what would you do to get it by itself? Well, you'd add 98 to both sides. Then you would divide both sides by 2. Well, we're going to do the exact same thing here. Now I've got x squared equals a number, and we know what to do with that now. We're going to square root both sides, x equals, we're going to put our plus minus sign, and the square root of 49 we know is 7. And that's how you proceed. So remember, you've got to get your squared term by itself first, treat it as if it's x to the first, if it's the only thing in there for a variable, and then go to town. Here we go. Now we're going to do these 3 problems. They're already on one side. So I'm going to start with number 3. I square root both sides. X equals plus minus 5. Wonderful. But what happens when we get over here? Well, when I go to square root both sides, am I allowed to square root a negative in the real number system? And the answer is no. So I'm going to say no real solution. You can't square root a negative number in the real number system. Now I have to be very careful saying that because eventually you may learn how to work with square roots of negative in complex numbers. Square root both sides here, and we know that the square root of 0 is 0. So x equals 0. Now I say always use plus minus, but would it make any sense to have a positive or a negative 0? And the answer is no. It doesn't make any difference whether you have a positive or a negative 0 because 0 is neutral. It's between the signs. So I'm not going to include that, though if you did include it, I would not count it against you. Here's our next example. I want you to try this on your own, see what you can do with it, and then we'll do it together. All right, so I'm going to subtract 10. Now, here's where you might have gotten stuck. Let's go over what to do next. You know to divide by 4, but how do I square root 1/4? Well, you just do this. We're going to include the plus minus sign. Now here's what's interesting. When you're square rooting a fraction, that's like square rooting the top separate from the bottom. We know what the square root of 1 is, and we know what the square root of 4 is. So there is our answer. In fact, when you really think about it, the square root of 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. So square root of 1/4 is 1/2. It's really strange when you think a smaller number becomes bigger when you square root it, but that does happen. All right, let's check out this one. Give it a try. Here we go. I'm going to subtract 12. That's going to give me 150. I'm going to divide by 3. So x squared equals 50. And I square root both sides. I've got the plus minus going. Now 50 is 5 times 10. 5 times 5 times 2. I have a pair of 5s. That goes on the outside. And the remaining 2, which does not pair up, is on the inside. Let's check out our next example. Oh, that's it. So now that that's done, I hope you understood it. Have a great day.